So today the agenda is going to talk about the overview of the program. We're going to talk about pricing and products and processes. We're going to talk about the integration of software review, new services, which we'll talk about, which is our check acceptance program, which we'll get into here momentarily. We'll talk about some of the accessories and the card readers, and then we'll finish up with some questions and answers. So on the next slide, we're going to go ahead and talk about, we'll dive right in. As many of you know who've already spoken to me or haven't spoken to me, we have a great setup program with ProTradeNet. They've done an awesome job of putting this together for us, so we're thankful for that partnership, and we're thankful for you being franchisees of the partnership. So inside this, we're going to talk about what that pricing looks like. Today, and I'll read what it says on the slide, but I'll go a little bit deeper into it in just a moment. It talks about merchant processing pricing. Part of the PTN, you'll get what they call interchange plus 10 basis points and 10 cents per transaction. In the next slide we're going to talk about, before I go to that slide, it's going to go over an example. So don't worry about us not understanding it right now. But basically what it means is interchange for us is what they call Visa and MasterCard, which is the cost of doing business. We're going to add 10 basis points for wherever that card type may be, and we're going to add a 10 cents per transactional fee. Amex at the highest, we know at this point in time, would normally be somewhere between 3.5 on the high side and 2.87 on the low side, which is their fee for Amex. This pricing also talks about a card reader that you'll get for $47, depending upon the group, whether it's a Service Titan, whether it's Authorized.net, which we'll go into a little bit further, a little bit more pricing on the accessory pieces that go with it. One thing you'll enjoy about the program is there's no miscellaneous fees, no setup, statement, batch, or monthly service fees, or online reporting fees. So the example to that would be is if you're doing any type of, if you don't do any type of processing whatsoever in a month, you would pay $0. But if you did do processing in a month, your fee would be, the 10 basis points and 10 cents per transaction. Another big piece of this, we have 24-hour national customer support. We have two different support teams. One supports the tech department. One supports the customer service department. Those numbers will be also given to you as well. So if you ever have any issues or concerns, we'll be able to help you with that process. Okay. On the next slide, let's dive right in. To get some better understanding about that, the example for pricing standard is a $100 charge. A normal card, a Visa card, without all the different things attached to it. Well, I'm referring to rewards cards, or if you're keying it in, just a simple Visa card, typically would go for a 1.54 and 10 cents per transaction. That is what they call a Visa interchange. That is the cost of doing business. What they'll do is if you take that 1.54 and that 10 cents, and you add 10 basis points to that, you'll get a total of 1.64. And if you're doing a percentage, that's what you'll take the $100 times the 1.64%. The 10 cents that's added on the transactional fee as part of the cost, you add those two together, you get a total of 20 cents per transaction. So your total amount is 1.64 and 20 cents per transaction. So once again, that's 1.54. You add 10 basis points to that. You get the 1.64. You have 10 cents already that's being charged. You add the 10 cents on top of that. You get 20 cents. If you took the $100 charge and you took that times 1.64%, you get $1.64. And if you add the 20 cents to it, it equals a total of $1.84. So on any $100 charge or per $100 charge with that exact same card in situation, you're paying $1.84 for the cost of that particular transaction. And we'll have some questions, if you have, in case you don't understand it at the very end of this presentation, so you can ask me a little bit further, or I can do another different example. But I really wanted to kind of give you a really basic example of what that would look like. On the next slide, it goes in and talks about a little bit deeper and dig a little bit deeper into it. So if you could switch that for me. It talks about the list of products that may be used. Today we have represented, we have Service Titan, we have Authorized.net, Fusion Core, where you can use different things such as a VX520. It's EMV certified. What all that simply means is you're a MasterCard Visa, which simply in our terminology means it's certified to handle those. If you look on your card today, you'll notice you'll have a chip on your card. Those chip cards, it has a chip technology that's based inside the card. It takes care of those. We also have the virtual terminal option. Virtual terminal is basically something that you will be using in case if you're using your own base computer that you want to attach either in your USB port, you can use a credit card swiper with it, or you can do all your simple transactions through your main computer. We also have what they call Pay with Mobile. Very, very useful device. If you're out in the field and you're not a service titan or authorized.net, make a strong suggestion that you use your Pay with Mobile option. You can use an iPad with that. You can use your mobile service with that. Basically, that would come with a particular charge to it, which is a $9 monthly fee for the service. And then you also would pay, on top of that one, would be a $30 charge for the actual card reader, and then you pay your regular 10 and 10. We also have the e-commerce accounts in case you have websites that you need accounts for. We have that available for you, and we also have other POS solutions that you can use for at the point of sale. So that would be, we are partnered up with several people that can handle that piece of it as well. On the next slide, we'll talk about a little bit deeper on that as well. Other than Service Titan and Authorized.net, there are also these additional pieces that are attached to it. Now, let me go over what those attachment pieces are. These card readers specifically are coming from what they call ID Tech. What they're going to be doing for us is they'll attach into your actual device itself, and what it'll do is have an extender attached to it. And if you have an outer box that's around your actual device itself, when that attaches to it, it has an extender piece, and then it'll connect onto it. Those typically will run somewhere around $47 for that particular piece. Authorized.net has a slightly different charge because the way it's injected, it'll be $52 for that particular piece. But every other card reader that's attached to it is approximately $47 for each one of those. Okay, so moving right along, we're going to talk about the process, what is required. Typically what happens when I call you or we'll be connecting with each other, I'll be talking about the different things that's required. The first thing I'm asking for is what they call an information sheet. Now, on the information sheet, it has a lot of the basic information on it. It's going to basically have, the name of your business, legal and DBA. It'll have your address. It'll have some Social Security information, your tax ID information. These are things that are required that I need to put on the application to go ahead and process it for you. It's also going to require a W-9 form for tax purposes. That's something that's mandated, which needs to be signed as well. We'll also require what they call an ACH authorization form. All that simply is we're authenticating, obviously your routing number and your counting number. It actually allows us permission to go in there and to remove funds or put funds into your account. Along with that, they're going to also require a voided check. Voided check authenticates what's on the authorization form. And the last thing is going to be the customer processing agreement. This is a 21-page document. On this document, you're going to have 4 pages of these signatures, page 12, 15, 16, and 17. What's in this document is terms and conditions for Visa. It's going to have Visa MasterCard. It's going to have anywhere from abbreviations. It's going to have all the rules about merchant services. It's going to have the length of contract. It's going to have all the pricing parameters are on there. So we'll have everything you need to know what's going on with your merchant processing account. Now, if there's any additional information that's requested, since I have like bank statements or processing statements or maybe a business license, that would be something that I'll request at the time needed. Most of the accounts that are set up are not requiring it at this time, but if it does require it, maybe based on the tickets that you might be doing, that's something that I'll address at the time when we're talking or conversing about that. So at that point in time, those will be things that we'll talk about. On the next slide, it talks about a great product that I'm really excited to announce to everybody. One of the high pieces of this whole conversation is called Check 21. This is something that we've been waiting for a while. I think it fits the bill for pretty much everybody on this call. What Check 21 is an acceptance program for checks, which just after doing some discovery, I found that after talking to several people on the call or these different calls I've been having, they do a lot of checks, anywhere from I've seen 30, 40, 50%. I've even talked to somebody as high as 80% of their business is done in checks. This is definitely a program that's for you. Now, for the Check 21 program, as you can see on the slide, it talks about guarantee and non-guarantee, and I'll explain that to you. The guarantee is that these are for customers, that definitely want to warranty their checks, or they want to electronically put these checks in their bank account. The guarantee, it shows you at a 2.5% of the check amount. And what that simply means to you is, what we'll be doing is we have a database that we go in there, and basically it tells us if this person is a good check writer or not. Based upon that database, we authenticate that check and we warranty that check or guarantee that check for you. All it simply means to you is we go after that check writer if it ends up being a bad check for you. You get your funds in your account. With the new setup with the PTN, we actually get those funds in your account the next day, so within a 24-hour period of time. So that's the nice benefit to that piece. So instead of waiting for a check to clear 3 to 4 or 5 days later, you can get those funds in your account the very next day. So we're excited to announce that piece of it. We are working on very carefully is to getting that guarantee up and going. I think we're about a week away from finishing or completing that task for the guarantee, but further information to come on that piece of it. What we do have that is actually currently going right now is our non-guarantee product. And what that is, it's for a non-guarantee, it's 70 cents a check. But what you're actually doing is you're not allowing yourself to have to go to the bank, and drop off those checks and wait that duration. You're also giving yourself the ability to make sure your guys don't lose the check. So when they're out there doing the job and having to come back and bring those checks back in the office, it's not a delayed process. You're getting paid right away for those checks. Very simple process. A lot of you guys have, the integration piece where you use an iPad anyway. You can actually click on it, take a picture of both sides of the check, and then run it through the application or the app they have on the actual iPad that you might be using or the phone, and then you can actually submit that in, and that'll go right in an account, and that'll go in your account the following day. Now, there's a few fees with that. I'll go over those fees with you. If you do 25 checks and less, there is a $5 monthly fee for that. If you happen to do over that 25, then there is no expense or there's no $5 fee. They do have some additional fees for return items that you'll see on the slide today. You'll see it says $10 for that. For every batch that you do, there's a 12 cents batch fee, but you may not be doing checks every day, so if you're not, obviously that doesn't apply on a daily basis. And then they want you to do a monthly minimum of $15, which in most cases, most checks are higher than that. So that shouldn't be an issue from that standpoint. The only other expense you have with that is it talks about it right on the slide here. It says a $5 charge, which I talked about already, and an additional 10 cents per transaction. The 10 cents is the additional fee that's charged on every check that goes through there. We're monitoring these checks. We're actually verifying these checks. So that's part of the process and part of the fees that are involved. Why I would tell you to choose this is for a lot of different reasons. One, security. So you know that if they're just doing a job and it's a very costly job, you definitely want to have those funds in your account and have access to that money. It could be for payroll, to give you access to payroll and to pay to have people come out there and do the job. The product, supplies, things that you might need of that nature is another reason. So these are reasons why I would definitely encourage franchisees that are on the phone to go with the Check 21 processing program. On the next slide, I'm just going to talk a little bit more about what's required for the Check 21 product. First of all, it's going to talk about the voided check that we need to have, which the good thing about it is we'll already have that for the credit card side of things, so we can actually get that voided check with an printed business name on it. And then there's an application that's a completed Check 21 merchant agreement that you have to fill out. This agreement's very simple. It's going to ask all the basic information I got from you from the credit card account. And once again, these are separate, but I can grab a lot of information from the info sheet that we talked about prior in this conversation, and I can go ahead and make sure that that's completed from that standpoint. These will need to be signed. I'll have those sent over to you guys for your signatures and back to us. There are two agreements. One will say it's coming from Sage and the date is other one we're working through. Those two contractual agreements will come over. You sign those and get it back to me. I'll submit that with the documentation that I've told you is required. And once that's sent in to us, it's about a day or 2 day turnaround from the time that goes in, and I have the answer back. And once they have agreed to it, then you'll have an easy setup for your check acceptance program. There will be somebody reaching out to you with further instructions about how to administer the application piece on your devices, and then from there, obviously, we'll be able to run checks. The last thing is there may be some additional documentation that may be required because it might be a high check limit. It might be a $10,000 check or a $15,000 check, and if that's the case, there are some different requirements for those. But I definitely wanted to mention that to you, so in case that may come up in a conversation. On the next slide, talks about schedules and fees. Complete face-to-face transactions or consumer not present transactions. These are different fees that might be associated with it. The one thing you have to do in the beginning is they don't have the ability to look at one individual transaction and say, do you want to do a guarantee or a non-guarantee? When you start the process, you have to pick that you want to do a guarantee program We have to do a non-guarantee program. That's something that has to be done in the beginning. We'll fill out the sales rates, accordingly based upon what you've chosen to use. And then obviously based upon what you've decided, we'll write in a waive for the monthly Check 21 excess fee. We'll talk about that here in a little bit as well. The people that are involved, and the equipment that's involved is from Date Systems, Indicate Date Systems. It says here on our slide presentation, a virtual terminal, gateway, or POS terminal field. And the last part says indicate number of iPads and terminal fields. And all that simply means to you is this: you know how many iPads you have, how many guys will be using it, and so when I administer those on each one of those devices that will be using it. So it's important to know that information up front. Now, individually, when you call me, we'll talk a little more deeply. We'll go deeper into exactly for the Check 21 program. I wanted to give you kind of a high level, what that looks like. And I think this is, once again, it's a program I think that a good 80–90% of you guys can use on a consistent basis. And the last presentation slide I have for you guys today is, so we're going to talk about accessories. Accessories, items that can be used with your services. ID Tech, which I talked about earlier in the conversation, has made an extender card reader for the ServiceTitan and Authorized.net. That is something that that definitely is. It's 4 weeks. It was 4 weeks out when we ordered it. Roughly about 2 weeks away from actually getting those in. But that's something you can use on your devices, like I explained to you before, with the OtterBox. Works perfectly with it. It is a one-piece item, not a two-piece item. Is the card reader and the extender attached together, so you don't have to have any fear of your guys losing those pieces. The second one talks about the virtual terminal card reader, which is $57. This is a USB port type device that connects right in, and you can slide it on the side where you can actually do your transactions card present. I've already addressed the Pay Mobile for the $9 a month and the $30 for the card reader. And lastly, the VX520 terminal. This is your standalone terminal that you can use at any location if you're doing front-end conversations with your merchants. This is a very perfect terminal to use. It does have EMV, so that's the good thing about that. Once again, that's for accessing or reading the chip cards. And then the pricing on that is $299. So those are the accessory pieces you can use with the device. Now, at this time, I'd like you guys to open the line up for any kind of questions that you might have about Worldpay, the process, the check acceptance program, or any of the accessory pieces. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions for you.
Okay, Sam, one of the first questions that we have is, am I good using a Mac OS?
Okay, perfect. All right, so the question, or how I answer that question will be, is it's really designed for any type of setup from your iPad, right? So the iPad typically is iOS software, and that's typically what ServiceTitan Authorized.net may be using. So with that integration piece of it, I would say yes, you can use it with that. That's typically how we would use it. And with ServiceTitan, they have their own setup and viewpoint. So I would definitely encourage you to talk to ServiceTitan as far as what that typically would look like. But thank you for your question.
Okay, next question. Other than the mobile solution, do any of the card reading or transaction entry devices or services have monthly charges?
Great question, and that would answer the question. That would be no. The only way you'd have any other additional charges would be Authorized.net. Worldpay in itself is we don't have any front-end charges. There's no monthly fee, PCI compliance fee, those fees that we just mentioned, batch fee. If you do use Authorized.net, I am aware that they do charge a fee, and I believe it's $9.95 a month, and then there's 10 cents per transaction fee through Authorized.net, but it's separate from Worldpay. We don't charge anything on the front end of that one, but definitely refer to Authorized.net just for if they have any other reduced fees from that standpoint. Pay Mobile, to your point, you mentioned, did have a $9 fee and $30 for the card reader itself. But no, there's no other product that we have that actually we charge that monthly fee for in the front end for you, other than paying for the terminal up front, which is $299.
All right, and next question is, will this work with the new smartware?
Great question. So Yes, it will. We've been working alongside, our tech team and different teams out here. So I know that question is coming from because I was just at a FC meeting, and that was one of the questions that was brought up. Um, so it definitely will, and I'll definitely, if that individual would like to give me an email, I'll go over specifically how that's going to work. Um, but I have a number. You can call me at the number you saw on the screen, which is my direct number or email. You can email as well, and actually I'll talk about in depth how that will work in that process, because it is a very lengthy conversation, so I won't bring it up on this call today. But please reach out to me, and I'm more than happy to go over that with you.
All right, I think that just about does it. It looks like there are not any other questions. So at this time, we have one more question that just came in. Give me one moment.
Hey Sam, just wanted to ask, for AirServe franchisees, I know that they typically have monthly Advantage plans. Is there a way to utilize Worldpay to accrue those monthly payments into Service Titan?
Let me structure my answer a little bit differently. Because I'm not as familiar with exactly what their monthly incentive plans are from that perspective, I can tell you that if there's no additional fees on the front end for us for that standpoint, so I don't know if I can answer that question directly from an incentive standpoint for them. But could you care to explain to me what the incentive plan is in reference to that piece of it coming from them?
The Advantage plan is something that the franchisee sells to the customer, and they AirServe is particular about billing them on a monthly cycle, about billing the customer on a monthly cycle. I was wondering if Worldpay would be able to help with that.
Well, I can definitely take that back to to my team and talk to them more specifically about that. But at this particular moment, we don't have anything that's set up for that. But we definitely can take that back to our team and talk about that. So thank you for that question.
All right, it looks like that was the last question. So again, if you would like to get connected with Sam, his contact information is there on the screen. I am going to move ahead to the last slide, which breaks down all of the franchisee relations coordinators and their specific brands. So if you need to reach out to one of us, please take a picture of the screen so you know who your contact is for your particular brand. And while we're doing that, it looks like we did have one more question pop up. The question is, if we only use virtual terminal back at the office, do we need a card reader?
No, it's not necessary. Matter of fact, you can key everything in the virtual terminal. But if you so desire to maybe get a more of a discounted rate that's coming in, always will you get a better qualified rate if you decide to do a card present transaction. And simply that's done by using a card reader. It's a great investment. For $47 investment, you're going to connect this to your main computer and then through a USB port and swipe the card. It is significant enough difference when you start talking about, volumes of, $500, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 worth of swiping opportunities, and it could save and put some money back in your pocket again. So it's well worth the opportunity to get the $47 for the card reader, and it definitely will 100% benefit you. So yeah, that's for all that are considering that or don't want to consider that for whatever reason. I would definitely strongly consider that, because the rate affected by that could be significant.
All right, and it looks like that is the last question. So at this time, we are going to end the webinar. It will be posted up on the ProTradeNet website, most likely at the end of this week, early to middle of next week. So if you would like to get a refresher on the program, you can definitely watch that, or give Sam a call and he'll be able to go more in depth and talk about opportunities specifically for your business. So we would like to thank everyone for your time and have a great rest of your Wednesday.